Welcome to the Wodesman podcast, catching up with all things bushcraft, wild camping and the great outdoors.
Oh, I hear a tinny pot.
Yeah. What are you drinking, Liam? What you got?
Oh, it's a Roadkill New England IPA. It's Mad Squirrel.
What a name.
You ran it over with your truck.
Well, maybe.
Unfortunately, I'm on something a little bit fancier this evening.
Hey, oh, still on.
You got the Stella out. Well, I'm on the whiskey, so I got myself a Bullet Bourbon, which
Nice.
is American whiskey. So
I'll
yeah,
beat that. Good drop.
pop the lid on that.
So yeah, hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Wodesman podcast. Obviously joined here with good friend and fellow bushcrafter Tom, Back Garden Bushcraft, and also a really special guest, Josh Westbrook. He's really good friend, also great bushcrafter. So yeah, how are you doing, buddy?
Me? Well, I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I've been out in the sun all day, and it's one of those days where you kind of like been sitting in a field, and you're actually just a bit hazy and a bit sort of ready to kind of kick back a little bit, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I feel it. I've been sat on a shave horse in the sun all day, and like my sun hat by the end of the day was just dripping because
You had a sun hat.
I had a sun hat on, and I was just on the shave horse making spatula blanks. And by the end of the day, I was just like, I'm done with the sun. Give me some.
That is a workout.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like a little sun pit, your garden, isn't it, Tom? It's quite, quite intense.
Literally, there's no shade at all. I'm like in the middle of suburbia here. So pulling the curtain back a little bit, guys. Today we're actually recording remotely, so we're all in our respective houses. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to the woods today to record, so we don't have a crackle of a fire between us.
Yeah, it's probably the one thing missing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We can't be cooking up a campfire crumble at the same time as recording. We'll make do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so you've been quite busy, haven't you, Tom? I mean, I've been just to give you guys a little bit of a backside of what I've been up to. I've been really, really busy with work, restoring like a 16th century house, which is really awesome. And yeah, in between that, I've been trying to fit in various different trips, mainly like my biggest one would probably be a canoe day trip that I did. That was absolutely incredible. Really loved that. I just released a video. It was just good to get back on the water after such a long time. I literally haven't been on the water since I was probably in the Lake District as a little kid. That's where I learned to canoe. So yeah, really, really good to do that. And also been doing a bit of deer stalking, which I'll get onto later. But yeah, it's just been a really busy period. I know it's been for you, Tom, as well.
Yeah, it has. And you actually video called me from the water on your canoe trip, which was just awesome. And you looked like you were having such a blast, such a good time.
Yeah,
so that's something we'll have to do in future. We'll have to get out on the canoe together, which I've not done for years either. So it'd be nice to get back on the water. But yeah, I've been pretty busy. I did my, if you probably recall, I was about to run my first of my carving courses last time we spoke, time we recorded Wodesman. And yeah, I had this lovely couple join me for a day in the woods. They actually only booked on the day before the course started.
That's brilliant.
Getting so worried. I was like, I've got no one booked on my course.
Yeah, I remember you calling me. I was like, I'm sure it will happen.
I was like, it's going to be a disaster. But luckily, this couple booked on it. And basically, she'd tried whittling with a Swiss Army knife when she was just a kid and always wanted to actually learn how to do it properly. They booked on for her birthday actually as a sort of last minute thing, and they came and camped for the weekend at Badgels, and we had such a great time. Neither of them had carved really before. I had to show them like from the ground up tool use, like how to use a saw, how to use an axe, how to use a knife. And they did great. They were quick to learn. They were really keen to get engaged. And really put their back into it to learn as much as they could in the full day we had with them. It was awesome. I was so excited to be sharing my sort of love of carving, and they've since messaged me to say how much of a good time they had, and that both of them are planning on carrying it on as a hobby. They're buying themselves moras, buying themselves a hook knife. She actually really fell in love with the Cuban hand hatchet by Grandmothers.
Yeah.
So I brought like my whole axe collection, so they could literally use like whatever they wanted. and she liked the Cubbon, which is basically a shrunk down version of the wildlife hatchet.
Yeah.
So my hope is that they'll both be future carvers. They'll both keep it going, keep practicing, and hopefully see them again for maybe an advanced session at some point.
That's awesome. Oh, I'm so happy it went well. I mean, your carving area looked amazing. The kind of the teaching area, it was beautiful. You know, had the parachute up there, all the stumps set out, all your kit. Really looked like an in-depth kind of full-on lesson and practical kind of development. It was brilliant. So yeah, really well done on that.
Yeah, cheers, dude. Well, I actually filmed a little video, so if anyone who's watching this wants to see what that would be like, you can check that out on my YouTube channel, Battle Garden Bushcraft.
It's a great video.
Yeah, I only filmed like little tiny segments of the day because I was focused on really giving them the best experience possible. But it was great fun. I loved it.
It's so nice that they were keen for fine and keen for you to film and share that experience with your viewers as well, which is really awesome. It kind of it's kind of like, I guess, how you and me met, Josh, as well.
All those years ago.
All those years ago. That was at the Bushcraft show 2019, was it?
It was either 18 or 19.
18 or 19, yeah. And I remember bumping into you, and you had one of your knives that you'd made as well. And it was, your keenness and openness to share that on camera. I was like, well, if you don't mind, I'll get it on an episode.
Well, I saw you, mate, and I recognised you from YouTube, and I was like, that guy's cool. I'm going to chat to you. So I remember
it was probably one of my first moments.
Did you feel like a celebrity?
Yeah. Well,
can I have your
special man?
One of those moments, mate.
But no, so have you been busy, Josh?
Quite a lot of stuff. I mean, aside from work, we've been doing building a few teepees and yurts and things like that, getting prepared for sort of glamping festival season sorted. In the workshop a little bit doing knives, but bushcrafty stuff. Went on a nice camp the other weekend with a few old friends. Had some really nice muntjac on the fire. A little bit of shooting, a little bit of this and that. That was great. Yeah, just trying to get out there, get as much time out in the woods as possible around the busyness.
Yeah,
That's
it's so important, isn't it? You can get too absorbed into the modern, just fast-paced way of life, work, binge on social media, and it's really important to just get out and get back to square one.
Hit the reset button, hit the woods.
Yeah. That's why it's been so nice to see you guys as well supporting the Forage for Freedom stuff as well. So thank you for that as well. It's been really good.
It's such a good movement. I was really proud of our episode we did on the Forage for Freedom. I thought it was the most important episode that we've done so far, I think, and one that we were both incredibly passionate about. I've had a lot of people reach out privately and say how much it meant to them. I think actually we had a message regarding Forage for Freedom we were going to read out today, didn't we?
Yes, yeah. There was we've had quite a lot of messages. It's actually really, it's, I don't know, something else actually to get that kind of feedback from people and to see it coming in the kind of quantity it comes in. You kind of think when you're sat down recording this or at the very inception, I know you and me were like, well, if we get 2 or 3 listeners, that's a win.
Yeah, for sure. I'm still like that. I can't believe it when I check the inbox and it's just like
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny. I was just flicking through the analytics of where the Wodesman podcast reaches, and is basically, there's not a country on there you can't find, and there might only be like 1% of our audience, but it's absolutely amazing that you guys are out there across the globe listening to us. So again, thank you so much. And yeah, going on to messages, there was a first one from John on Instagram, and he was talking about the Forage for Freedom episode, like Tom said, and he said it's a superb episode once again. Keep it up, guys. And he said he loved the whole Forage for Freedom and mental health aspect of the episode. It really hit home. It's a massively important subject, not that it's spoken about freely. And he said, bravo, guys. So, thank you ever so much, John. That, it means a lot to hear that our honesty is, appreciated, because it can be taboo, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think people are actually surprised by honesty when they hear it, because so much like you see politicians and stuff, and you can't believe a word of what they're saying. Yeah. It's actually quite nice to hear like some people talk openly, and it was nice to have that frank conversation with you, Liam, where nothing was off limits. And
Yeah.
we basically sat down before recording that episode, didn't we? And we were like, where's the line we draw with this one? And we basically said, there isn't one.
There isn't one. Yeah. Where the conversation goes, it goes.
Yeah, and I think that was refreshing for us, and I think our listeners who have messaged us have seen what we were trying to do with that one. And I do encourage all of our listeners, wherever you are in the world, do keep going out, keep foraging for freedom, keep sharing those pictures of what you're up to in the outdoors, and help break that stigma down further. I think every little bit we can do is beneficial to somebody out there. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, just quickly on that note, actually, you touched something about sharing, and it's not only just about the hashtag or about getting the posts out there. It's also about signaling to other people that you're open for the discussion about mental health, which is like, it can be quite hard for someone to reach out, and it's something I touched on in an interview that I did with Living Wild UK, and he's the chap I went on the canoe trip with. So if you do want to check that out, guys, head over to the Living Wild UK blog, and you can see the written interview with myself on there, and it goes a bit more in depth about the Forage for Freedom movement. But it's not only kind of spreading that word that mental health is okay to talk about, but it's also that you're open to talk about it. So if someone's having a rough time, they can just send you a message and have a meaningless conversation, but actually it does mean something, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that idea that like we're a community, and even though we might never have met, we're kind of all like online friends, and that actually brings me on. Nice segue there to our next message that we wanted to read out today, from a lovely chap called Jay Lawrence. And this is quite a long message. So if I trip up over the words, give me some
we'll forgive you, buddy.
some space.
You're on the harder stuff than me and Josh.
I am. Yeah, I'm on the whiskey. We'll blame it on the whiskey if I make it. So Jay goes, hi lads, from me up here in County Durham, UK. I've literally just binged every episode of your fantastic podcast over the last 2 days.
Hey.
As someone who doesn't get out as often as I'd like, I find that sticking an episode on takes me into another world where I'm sat around a campfire with you guys. I feel like I've become great friends with you both just from listening to your chat, which is that's just awesome.
That's wicked.
It's just so good, and that's what we're trying to achieve. Because actually, if we were around a campfire with you, Jay, I'm sure we would be good friends. I'm sure we'd know each other. Because there's something about sharing a campfire with people. Like Josh, when we first met, was also at the Bushcraft show. Like we hit it off immediately. Just got on, sat around a campfire, sharing food and drink and stories. And there's something about a campfire that just brings people together.
It does, yeah. 100%. We were dancing by the end of that night.
I remember your dance moves, Josh. They were awesome.
Thank you very much.
So, carrying on with the message from Jay, he says he's more of a hiker, a noob wild camper, and aspiring bushcrafter. Your first episode really grabbed me, as wild camping is my first love and has ignited my love of all things outdoors. I've learned so much from you guys, but also have been inspired to look into things that I've never heard of. For example, bow drills. I would love to hear more of your views, tips, and advice on wild camping. Something which I do find daunting is finding locations. I've done a couple of camps with a friend in the lakes, just over the Scottish border, and in a private on a private permission forest.
Nice.
I'm looking at OS maps and public access land, but often get hung up on the thought of getting somewhere, the terrain being unsuitable, or getting set up and moved on during the night. Thanks so much for the amazing podcast and taking us away with you. Looking forward to the next episode. Great job, guys. Jay. So he touched on finding a location and that sort of fear of being woken up in the night by an angry gamekeeper pointing a shotgun at you. And I think that is a legitimate fear. If you are wild camping, there is always that. That is a reasonable thing. If you don't have permission somewhere, there is a chance you could get moved on.
Yeah.
And I think the only fair thing to do in that situation is just to be polite and show that you're being respectful, and probably just change spots, to be honest. Like, because if they don't want you there and they find you, it's sort of the game's up at that point, isn't it, really?
Have either of you guys ever encountered that?
I've never been moved off.
I've never been moved on, but I've had I've had two separate encounters where one was in a woodland that I knew was off limits, and I just saw lights come in. Luckily, I had good fire management, so I had a lot of water there. I just literally doused, literally all of the water went on the fire, and I basically just moved on. And they didn't actually end up coming back, but that was just me being a little bit kind of, that paranoia gets you, and you're like, oh no, they're gonna come and move me on. I wasn't camping, I was just having an evening session. And another time, some locals just kind of bumped into us. We were in a completely other woods up the north of England, and they were just a bit interested in what we were doing, but no, I'm not moved on, but it's more spooked, I guess. Kind of. Then that's kind of made me uncomfortable, and I thought, right, I'm going to change spots.
Yeah, the nearest I've had was in the Lake District, because although it's kind of like tolerated, it's not encouraged to wild camp in the Lake District.
Yes.
I remember I was up there with my mate Heaney, and we were wild camping. We had a tent set up. We were doing everything leave no trace. We were cooking little dehydrated meals on a little gas stove, and we did see head torches coming up the hill towards us, but they actually turned off, and then we could see where they set up their camp.
Nice.
So we were like, oh, okay, it's kindred spirits. But I remember us both sitting on the crest of the hill, just sort of head torches off, staring out, watching these head torches, and the heart starts going, doesn't it? Because you're like, oh God, what's going to happen here?
Strange folk coming.
I see lights off in the distance.
I've never encountered it.
No.
No, but I think it's due to the area that you are. Like, for some reason, this area, people seem to be a lot more kind of lenient about it. And when I have bumped into people out in the woods camping, when it's not on private land, etc., they're usually quite positive about it.
Yeah.
Or they're just interested in what you're doing, like you say with the other person. Or it's if you see someone else, maybe it's other people camping. That's often people. I find I'm more likely to run into other people doing the same thing than I am into some angry farmer in the middle of the night.
Yeah. I always like to think as well, if you're respectful and you've shown by how you're acting that you're thinking about your impact on the environment, it's always going to help your case better than someone who's trashing it. Like we always promote a leave no trace aspect to our podcast, and like our fire management, we're very careful with our fires. We're not having huge like bonfires that could have burnt Guy Fawkes at the stake. We're keeping it small. We're doing a nice contained fire. We dig a turf out. We get down to bare earth. We have water available. We're not leaving rubbish. If anything, we're taking rubbish out with us that we find and leave it nicer than when we got there. And we see that as quite an important thing, because actually we'd calmly show those things, and like if they still wanted us to leave, fine, game's up, go somewhere else. But at least you can show that you're being a steward of the woods.
100%.
Yeah. No, I think it comes across. We're fairly polite people anyway. You'd struggle to find a disrespectful bushcrafter. I mean, I'm sure there's a few and far between out there, but I think the ethics of bushcraft is about, like you say, Tom, leave no trace, understanding what you're doing to your local surroundings. So if you have coppiced a piece of wood, you can explain that the process of coppicing actually allows more shoots to grow. It's not actually harming the plant. Look, I've done the coppice in the right place. I haven't left it 4.5 foot in the air, just cut up.
You'd put a slope on the cut, so
exactly.
Water would run off of the stalk. Just being sensible about what you're doing. And to be honest, I think most of the people that are going to run into problems are the people that are going into a woodland with a bunch of mates, don't have any bushcraft knowledge, are cutting birch bark off live trees, are burning things like with petrol or whatever, and playing like loud dubstep tunes at 2 a.m. so that every deer in the neighborhood has run into the local town to get away from them, that sort of thing. You're going to have more issues than someone actually...
Or, even getting themselves into trouble, like when people go ill-equipped, or they go in and they drink too much or party too much, and then they need help and medical assistance, or they do something stupid and put an axe in their leg. Accidents can happen, and we've touched on that before. But it's when people go in a little bit blasé about the environment, like you say, that things could really turn around and bite them.
So I think our advice with that is be responsible and be respectful, and pick your spots. And actually, on picking your spots, that's one of the things Jay mentioned in his message. And am I right in thinking he also sent us an audio recording?
Yeah, I was just about to say we actually got an audio recording from Jay. So really, really nice to have one of those. And that option is there for every one of our listeners. If you just have a quick 20 seconds that you want to quickly ask us a question, you can just go on to the link at the bottom of the podcast description, and you can follow through that to send us a voice message. You just use your phone, record. I think you might have to set up an Anchor account, although you might be able to do it as a guest. And you can just send us a little voicemail, a little question. And actually, Jay asked us the very question on how do we pick our spots in this message. So I'll play it now. And
just quickly, Liam, sorry to interrupt. Before
no,
you
of course.
play it, is if the whole recording's a voice message on a different platform puts you off, you can also get us all on Instagram and just send us a voice note on there, and that's
good point.
An option. So if you didn't want to make an account, you can do it via Instagram.
Yeah, nice one. So we'll play Jay's message now, and we'll answer it accordingly.
Hey guys, just started listening to the podcast recently. Really enjoying it. Got lots of good tips. Really makes us want to get I just wanted to ask for some tips on finding locations. Obviously, we're in a really good area up here, up north, like right next to the border. We've got the lakes, North Yorkshire moors and stuff like that. But just wondering, like, how you go about actually finding good spots. Is it just a case of looking on the map and trying to find somewhere, and then, or is it a case of going out and hiking and looking for spots and then going back there with your gear? Like, what's the best way to do it? How do you recommend doing it? Obviously, people like to keep their actual camping spots fairly secret, but would be interested to get your take.
So Josh, having listened to that audio message, how do you go about selecting a spot if you're going to a new area and you're sort of thinking about wild camping? How do you go about doing that?
A new area. So generally speaking, I would be a bit lazy, and I would generally go on the old Google Maps, check out that. I would be looking for, I guess you could say, public woodland, things that are owned by, like, say, Woodland Trust or National Trust, those sort of things, and just looking for those little, those deep areas that you can just bed yourself into without getting bothered by people. Some of it's far away from a road, some of it's far away from houses. I don't have to do it too much these days, because normally it's like, the local community that I have around here, like a lot of our friends, we do the same sort of thing, and we'll share spots and we'll share ideas of where to go. But yeah, essentially it's just about doing that little bit of research prep. So whether you're using Google Maps, you're hiking into a place, getting a feel, like a vibe for a woodland. And there's some woodlands I'm sure we've all experienced. Like it looks great on maps, and you get there and it doesn't feel like the most welcoming place, or there's some other issue with it, or it's a bog or something.
Yeah.
It's just about getting out there, spending a bit of time, doing a bit of a recce. You know what I mean? Whether you're using technology or the old school trekking through it.
Yeah, make a good point there. Sorry to cut across you, Tom, quickly. You made a good point about bogs there. When I went up to Scotland, we did the whole Google Maps, and we even used a different satellite map system than Google Maps to just cross-reference more modern photos, and we found that Google's photos were a bit later, so we noticed other areas cut down of the forest that we would have been like, imagine if we chose to camp there, and now we look at the more recent satellite, it's like completely deforested.
It's a field.
Yeah. Field full of tree stumps.
We'd pick this really nice spot, and we'd OS mapped it, and somehow we ended up going across a marsh that we knew was there, but we were like, I don't think this is, we were tired. It was getting on in the day. We'd hiked a hell of a long distance up this river, and there was just the forest. The marsh went into the forest, so obviously on an OS map you can see the marsh, and then it goes to forest, coniferous forest. You're like, that's fine, that's a forest, but the forest was the marsh. Like
damn water table.
yeah, it was honestly, you can see it in the video, it's just like going into the depths of beyond, like when you looked in the gaps in between the trees and the moss and stuff like that. So yeah, that was just one of them unexpected things. So yeah, definitely satellite maps are great, but then also cross-reference them with OS maps, because you can't always tell the exact terrain, and even then you still aren't guaranteed it's that.
Yeah.
Sweet.
No, 100%. I think doing your due diligence, checking your OS maps, checking your Google Maps to get an idea. So I'll take a recent spot where I did a solo stealth camp.
Yeah.
Now, I prefer camping where I have permission, but if I don't have permission and I'm going to go there, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure I'm not getting in people's way and I'm not going to be discovered. So with that one, it was a stealth camp, and I was really careful beforehand. It's somewhere I've gone since I was a kid, and I've walked around the area, but I've never found this spot until I actually looked for it.
Nice.
And that's because it's so far off a path. So I looked on the OS maps, and I circled the areas in that large acreage of woodland where there weren't any paths. And then I went and walked it, and I found that actually they've added paths since the OS map had been drawn. And I checked Google Maps, and again I sort of circled the areas that I thought were potential spots. And then I went and walked it, and I found actually that out of the 3 I'd circled as potentials, only one of them was far enough away from civilization to be a viable camping spot.
Yeah.
That one I knew was going to be good because I checked the OS maps, and I could see the contour lines were really steep, and it was a super steep. It's basically a super steep hill, fully forested, so real woods. And on the top there's a little flat spot, and there is a house sort of structure fairly near, but it's like dense woods, and it's still hundreds of meters away. And there's no paths anywhere near it. To get to or from it, you have to go up a really big hill. And knowing the area, having walked around it, I knew actually the hill, what it was like, and I knew how thick the foliage was. And basically, you have to fight your way through dense brush uphill to get to this flat spot at the top. So I was like, the likelihood of anyone else going there without the intention of wild camping
it's minimal.
Incredibly slim. And actually I have found traces where someone else has had a fire up there and has wild camped up there.
Nice.
But it was a really nice night. But even then I still kept thinking, oh God, what happens if I get discovered?
Yeah.
Because actually it was really it was a really cold night, and it was very wet. So when I had my fire, I contained it in a bush box, and the smoke actually settled. And you know when it's like that sort of weather where it's really
rain's coming,
and the smoke won't dissipate, it's just sort of hanging around. And I was like, oh, I've literally just smoke signaled where I am. But no, I was absolutely fine there, and it was a really good camp because I located it as far enough away from paths and things as possible. And regarding what Jay said about like not finding a suitable camp spot, I think recce it first. If you can't, you'll just have to make do. And part of bushcraft is being adaptable and being able to sort of make yourself comfortable in environments. But I would say recce it first if that's a possibility. Go out for the day maybe before spending the night. Maybe cook up some lunch or something on a trangia, and just see if you see anyone, see if people stumble across you. And I think that will give you some peace of mind and help you sort of identify potential places to put a tarp or whatever.
Well, I mean,
that'd be my advice.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, you could probably give a bit of insight to that because you obviously manage a woodland. You look after a bit of land which, you know, you're very lucky to call your own, a little bit of wood. And you've had that kind of battle since the beginning of kind of saying, actually, where do I have my base camp? Where's the foliage thick enough so I feel private? I have a bit less sound pollution. Where's the widow makers above me? What trees need? I'll let you explain, because it's not only about the geographical location. I guess it can be about the habitat as well. So you could walk into a woodland, and the whole woodland's really a camping spot. But it's, I guess, that fine tuning ability of saying, I'm going to follow follow my instincts until I find that homely feeling, which I think a lot of us do, don't we? We kind of just wander until we find home.
No, completely. A lot of it is based on a feeling. When you're in a place, some places feel like home more than others.
Yeah.
But in regards to Fyrd Woods, when we started working that, the first thing I knew that was I wanted it to be as minimal impact as possible to the wildlife. So building, you've seen the structures there. So we've got the first thing I built was that cabin.
Yeah.
I built that. I built that in within those within the larix, the larch trees.
Yes.
Because I didn't want it to be underneath any of the beach or anything like that, and because my woodland's on a bit of a slope as well, I had to dig in for a flat spot.
Yes.
Same with the teaching area up the hill.
That's an astronomical effort.
Yeah. So that's me with a with a hoe, basically just like leveling out ground for like ages and ages and ages to build it. But the rest of the woodland I wanted to kind of leave, for nature, like all game trails going through and things like that, and we're still getting the deer and the badgers and the foxes moving through.
And the amount of ramsons in that place, like I hadn't been privy to seeing that.
See, that surprises me because we get them so much down here in the southwest, and
it's virulent.
it's almost like a weed for us. So it was great to see how stoked you were to see the ramsons out, man.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and like even what you've done to the ash trees and stuff like that, to see them sprout, and again you've done like pollarding on them.
Yeah, we did the section felling for a couple of ash trees that were a bit dodgy looking, just so that it was not going to fool anyone who's coming on a course or something like that overnight. But I've got a plan to build a tree house on one of them, just like
that's excellent.
I want to get some quite because it's a monolith now. It's a dead standing thing. But it would be fun to just like put some, not for courses and stuff, but just for me, my mates, that kind of thing. Put some climbing holds up in there and
be like House Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That's exactly my inspiration there, mate.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's and that's really it, isn't it, as well? Like, obviously when you're going out camping you can't half or section fell an ash tree if it looks a bit dodgy, but that's where you got to say, actually I'm not just looking at the ground or where I'm going to be sleeping. We've got to look up. I mean, me and Tom have changed campsite many a time at the last minute because we've looked up and thought, actually,
that's it.
So like you're sinking through your fourth heavy-hitting tinny, and you're just like, wait, there's a beech tree with a dodgy-looking limb right above my head.
Was it that low before?
Yeah.
It's swaying very near us now. No, checking for widowmakers obviously is incredibly important, and I've heard a beech go in the night, a big beech. It literally cleaved itself in half, and it was
like a bomb going off.
Was like a bomb going off. I tell you, it got us all up out of our tarps. It was proper scary.
Yeah.
So checking your trees is something that I would say is an imperative concern when you're out finding a spot. A couple of the other things you need to look for, you can actually check on the OS map before you get there, because an OS map will show you whether or not you're going to be in coniferous woodland or deciduous. Yep. An OS map will show you where there are like water sources, so rivers and streams and lakes. So actually, you can have an idea of your resources that are going to be available to you before you even get to the environment. So that's just something else to be aware of. You do want to set up somewhere where you've got resources, and I'm sure, Josh, I've never actually visited your woodland, sadly yet, but I will hope to do so in the future.
Mate, you're always welcome.
Thanks, dude. I'll definitely take you up on that. I'm sure you've got all the resources you need near your base camp, because it just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, completely. We're quite blessed with quite a nice mix of species there as well, in regards to trees and like the herb layer on the forest floor. The main resource I think I'm using at the moment is a sycamore, because I've got absolutely loads of that, and that's become like the building blocks for a lot of the structures. It's got a bit of hazel, but not enough to really use all of it. So sycamore is providing most of that.
Nice wood.
It's good wood. It doesn't, it's lightweight, it's strong, grows back quickly. It's a good coppice. Got a lot of castanea up there as well.
Yeah.
A few oaks, beech, ash, field maple, all of that kind of thing. I get excited about all the different trees though, really, to be honest.
I'm not surprised. I do as well.
No, it's funny because I've just been trying to recall. I'm not going to recite the list because I'll most certainly get it wrong on the spot. But I was reading an article a while ago, and it was about, yeah, and this can even probably tie into picking a spot. You know, if you know there's a storm coming, there's certain trees that you really should avoid in storms as well because they do attract lightning. They're more prone to be hit by lightning in probability. So things like, I believe it was ash and oak as well, surprisingly enough, very
Ash, especially these days because of the dieback, and unfortunately, it's the way that it seems to affect the tree. Like you remember, like, you know, ash has always been that wood where it's the strong wood. It's good for tool handles. It's good for bows, all that kind of thing. And now because of dieback, it just takes apart the grain. It completely makes it so brittle.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's such a shame because, like, you know, bow making out of ash, you know, making an ash self bow the way that we have for
years,
such a long time, you know.
Yeah.
I think most of the bows on the Mary Rose ship were made out of ash rather than yew.
Yeah, and they had some insane draw weight to them.
Totally.
Well, ash is naturally flexible, isn't it? And it returns to its shape quite well with a sort of rigidity, which is quite so it will flex, but then not snap.
Yeah, but of course, with dieback now, that's not the case. And I think it's 80% of the trees that make up the woodlands in the southwest at the moment are ash.
Right.
And we're gonna lose quite a large amount of them. So it's a scary thought, to be honest.
That's terrifying. I mean, we already have one of the lowest, if not the lowest, forest coverage in Europe. Like, let alone with all the trees that are dying because of ash dieback. I was with a tree surgeon at the weekend, a really nice guy called Will, and he was pointing out to me all the ash trees that had ash dieback, and in a small area, 80% of the ash trees he pointed out had dieback. And it's like, this is really sad.
Yeah, and it's heartbreaking.
It's funny because you know, since the big awakening on that dieback, because it's been here in the UK for quite a while, but it's started to really get a grip on our ash trees now. There's this funny thing that I almost see the forest as fighting back. Obviously, ash has always been quite a virulent grower anyway, but ash, I've seen a lot more ash saplings in the forest, you know, scattered. So it's almost like the forest is trying to, it recognizes that there's this dieback and it's saying, right, we need to get like a big generation up. Yeah. I mean, it's funny how those things kind of all work. And again, I know it doesn't relate exactly to spot picking or you know, where to find a suitable location, but they're all things to look at, because if you're going to be in a woodland trying to enjoy the night, you want to have that kind of comfort of not thinking about the beech tree isn't going to drop a limb. You know,
it's peace of mind, isn't it, really? So I think, just as we've managed to go off on some tangents, which hopefully are useful and interesting, shall we just bring in our little summary for Jay of our little
I reckon so, because that was quite
would look for when picking a spot.
It was quite a long, good, intricate conversation about it there, but obviously, sorry, Jay, stretched out for quite a long time.
But hopefully it's been useful. So I think, to summarize, check on Google Earth, look for patches of woodland that are large and not broken up with, say, fire breaks or paths that people can easily access your spot.
Yeah.
So that's your first point of call. Look,
water sources can be fine. Like, rivers are fine. We didn't touch on that, but you know, it's something we all kind of take for granted, water. But if there is a water source, try and find somewhere with access to that, you know. But so carry on, Tom.
Yeah, so that would make your life easy, putting your fire out and things like that. And then then maybe look at your OS map, have a look at the contour lines, have a look at the types of trees. Are the images of the trees little conifers, or are they sort of more sort of deciduous trees? Have a look at sort of the aspect, have a look at how dense it is. Is there like the symbol for marshland, that sort of thing, like Liam said earlier?
Yeah, don't forget the topography. It's so important.
Check the sort of topography of the area. So Google Maps first, then get your OS map out, have a look at that. And then if you have the ability to go for a walk there and spend a day in that environment to find your sort of fine tune your site location, we'd recommend you doing that. And in that position, a quick rundown of what you're looking for a good campsite. Check above in the canopy for widowmakers.
Yeah.
Check your types of trees. You don't want to be underneath beech trees, especially not in the spring, as the sap rises and the sort of the uneven weighting on the limbs can just cause the limbs just to drop. So check for widowmakers, whether that's beech trees or just dead trees.
And that even leads to looking at the bottom of the trees, because the tree can look secure, but you can actually like go around the back and be like, actually the roots of that are like almost up on one side, or there's been it's got a big gouge missing out of it. You can't always just take it from a one perspective.
That's it. Are there chicken of the woods growing out of it? Is there?
Is it decaying internally?
Like it's an ash tree. Are there crambles all over it? Because they'll grow on dead ash trees.
Exactly.
So it's another sign of decay and the fact that it might not be as sturdy as it looks. So checking for fungi on the trees, things like that. Then you want to find is there a suitable place for a fire if you're going to have one? And I think a question to ask yourself is, if you are wild camping, do I need a fire? Is it suitable for a fire? Is it safe? And is it something I'm actually going to get a benefit from? And if the answers to those questions is yes, then go for it. Find yourself an area where you can scrape back to bare earth or clay and go from there. Look for your resources in the area. Look for fire. Have you got firewood? Have you got water? Have you got anything else you might need? Have you got trees to hang a hammock from? All of that sort of thing.
No point in a spot being good if
yeah, exactly. Get there.
Like, right, this is lovely, but there's nothing for me to do.
It is barren.
The meadow.
And then just have a look at the location. Is it near paths? Are you likely to be disturbed? Is it quite remote? All of that sort of thing can come into play.
That's it. Things like litter. Just quickly, if you see litter there, it's probably a bit frequented.
That's it. Also, if it's a particularly windy day, check your prevailing wind and even how it feels. Are you standing in like a wind tunnel, for example? Yeah. Don't necessarily want to be in a wind tunnel. So positioning yourself where you're getting sort of a bit of protection from the wind, not so near the edge of the woodland where you're getting the full brunt of it.
Yeah.
Natural things that might play a role. Is there flat ground for you to put your bivy bag down and things like that? All of this stuff plays a role, and I think if you consider all of those aspects, you're pretty much guaranteed to have a nice night in the woods.
Amen. And like we said at the very, very beginning, if you do come into any kind of conflict, and I use that word kind of loosely, I'm not expecting fist fights over a wild camp, but if anyone comes up to you and then starts saying what are you up to, just remember we're a polite bunch. We're out here because we advocate getting back to basics, getting in touch with nature, and being in touch with nature is also about being harmonious with our other fellow humans and appreciating we're all in the same thing together, we're all in the same boat. We're just looking for a little bit of space, and hopefully you can actually educate them and hopefully find some common ground.
Yeah, and on that, actually, you're representing a community. If you're going out and wild camping, you're not just there as an individual, you're kind of representing all of us.
Yeah.
We call ourselves wild campers, we call ourselves bushcrafters, and if one person goes out there and lips off to the gamekeeper, then he'll be extra harsh next time he catches someone wild camping.
Yeah, and that might actually ruin someone else's permission.
That's it. And that's why we have such restrictive laws in this country about camping, is because some people that weren't educated in leaving no trace have completely trashed the place, and over time people's sort of tolerance for campers has decreased to the point where we are, and we have to be a bit stealthy if we're going to wild camp.
Yeah, definitely. And I think
it's not all about going out and lighting fires and burning stuff and cutting up sticks. Really, there's a bit more to it than that, isn't there?
Yeah,
a lot more.
Appreciating nature, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, but it's like, again, like going back to what you're doing with your woods, you're a custodian of that land, and you're making the proper decisions to leave that as minimally intervened as you can while still enjoying that land. And that's what it's always about whenever you go out.
Yeah, totally. You still want to have a bit of fun, but it's also about letting the wildlife move through and not disrupting the plant life.
Yeah.
All of that, and actually having seeing the woodland grow. Like one of the things that really, it's simple little things, but like we've had way more Jack by the Hedge this year, which
Yeah.
really excited me. We've also had we've got a lot of badgers that have just moved in.
Brilliant.
My dog likes to chase them sometimes, which is a bit of a pain, but it's great to see them actually like frequenting the woodland.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good sign that your woodland is thriving.
Yeah.
And actually, talking about your woods, Josh, that's a perfect sort of time to sort of progress the discussion onto what you're sort of doing at the moment. So
Definitely.
you're a bushcraft instructor. You run courses in your woods, don't you?
Yeah.
But you're also a professional knife maker, and you've recently sort of gone putting all your efforts into that. So it'd be really good to hear from you a little bit more about your sort of bushcraft businesses, I suppose, and what you do professionally in the outdoors.
I mean, I'll start with the knife making, and that goes back a long time. That probably goes back to about 2007.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
When I was at college, agricultural college, and I was watching these videos online about making katanas, samurai swords, and I was like, I got fascinated by that sort of stuff. And
sick.
yeah, so I started playing around in the workshop at home, in the shed, and just I think the first things I made were like I'd get like big, large nails and I'd hammer them flat, and that add like a little handle to them, and then I started using old files, heat treating them with like a blow torch and putting a handle on them. I'd sell them to like mates at college for like 20 quid or something like that, you know. And then it kind of went into I guess I started buying blades in and making like puukos, sort of your traditional Scandi handles, your stacked handles, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it went more down the. I think it was when I first met you guys. Actually, I was doing a lot of forge stuff out of 01, so I was
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still remember you demonstrating that puukko that you'd made. I think it had a slight recurve on the blade.
Yeah. It's a full
And
complex
it
recurve.
slayed wood. Like
It did.
I remember showing us, you got like a 2-inch thick or more piece of wood, and you just chest levered it in one.
Straight through.
It's like this guy knows his way around some steel.
I still remember that blade because it had the hand peened like on the end. Oh, it's just beautiful, man.
TA Outdoors, Mike's got one very similar. If you watch his stuff, you'll see him using one a little bit occasionally.
Yeah, great YouTuber, and his knife, lovely.
Shout out Mike.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, the sort of design back then, it was all the forge stuff. I wanted to make something a little bit different because in the bushcraft knife scene, coming up with something unique is challenging at best. You know, there's so many variables of the same tool effectively. So all you can really do is fine tune something to try and make it as effective as possible. So moving on from the forge stuff, I've now moved on to, I guess, more modern materials, because what I wanted to do was kind of create a knife that's wilderness ready, something that I'd be happy to go out to Canada, say, with and just have low maintenance. So I switched over from 01. I'm now using a stainless steel called AEBL.
Cool.
I don't know if you've got any experience with that, Tom, because I know that you
I
like
think some of my pocket knives are AEBL actually.
Yeah, one of them is, I think.
Yeah, because I've got quite a few folders. I've got a Spyderco here with me now.
Nice.
I've got quite a few of them when they do a release in different steels that are a little bit more exotic. And I've got quite a few of those when they were like limited time drops. So I think one of those is AEBL potentially.
It's compared to the 01, I'm really enjoying it. It's all down to the heat treat, a lot of knives, and it's all down to the edge geometry, the grind, and all those sort of things. Those are the variables that are going to kind of dedicate your performance of the tool. But AEBL, if it's heat treated well, it's insane, mate. It's got about 30% more edge retention than your classic 01 or your 1095. It's just as tough and easy to sharpen, and it's stainless. So to me, I believe that it's probably going to become the benchmark steel for most high-end bushcraft knives at some point soon. Like Ben Orford's using it a lot.
Yeah, well, I was privy to use one of your personal blade, in fact.
The new ones, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I was going for a good while just feathering on it, and it was just like still splitting hairs at the
end. You wanted to keep it, didn't you?
I did. I almost swapped it for my cash drum.
But no, that's it. It's like I've switched over from doing the forge stuff with the convex grind. And like convex grind's great. It it glides through wood. It's got that kind of that cross section of the blade is very good for minimizing drag on material.
Yeah, it kind of forces out, doesn't it?
Exactly. But sharpenability in the long term, it's quite hard to keep your apex at the same geometry. So
people flattening them off a little bit.
Totally, yeah. They just get rounder and rounder and rounder at the edge if you don't know what you're doing. So it's much easier to just have a nice Scandi grind with a decent. I think I go for a 24-degree edge bevel or a 22, depending on what the knife is. But yeah, like a good Scandi, good heat treat, and then the rest of it comes down to the balance of the knife, the feel of it. Like mine. The Evo Pros, the ones that I'm mostly making at the moment, they're based off of the Woodlaw Pro. Do you remember last year I bought a Woodlaw Pro?
Yeah, I do. I remember you trying to flog it to me as well.
Yeah, because I bought it when I was drunk, mate, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I bought this. But I loved it. I loved that knife. I loved it.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. I think you lent it to me actually at the Bushcraft show for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, really nice tool and a really good starting point, and then you just put your finishing touches and fine tunes on it. That's
it. Yeah, I used it for a while. I taught a couple of courses of it. I went on a few trips with it, and then I was like, some things I like, some things I'm going to change. So, yeah, when I've sort of built this, I've built this new workshop now that's dedicated around stock removal rather than forging.
Yeah.
And the knife now, the Evo Pro, it's basically the Woodlaw Pro, but with a few features that make it a bit more ergonomic and effective for like prolonged wilderness use, effectively.
Yeah, well, you've put your own little touch on it, haven't you? And that's even down to the kind of the way you do your handles. It just feels it is a different knife.
Yeah.
But it's the aesthetics of a bushcraft knife. It's something you can rely on, like you said. It's not overly thick, but you've got enough material there that you feel confident batoning it. It's made out of a good quality material.
Yeah.
Even when you're batoning, because of the edge retention being that 30% more stronger, you're thinking, well, actually, I'm putting less wear on the blade. Because you can think batoning is just a normal thing, but it can put a lot of strain on your edge.
Totally, depending on your technique and the material you're batoning through. Yeah, 100%. I mean,
my Castrom's fairly good at batoning because it's so wide.
It's a 4 mil that Castrom, isn't it?
Yeah, 4 or 5. I mean, it's a chunker.
Yeah. Nice.
I mean, I've got a bit of a penchant, as it was, for a 5 mil. Which I love a 4 mil. It will always slice better than a 5 mil. I'll give it that. But there's something about the weight of that steel.
It feels nice, doesn't it?
Just gives you the confidence to just put it through hell.
I do love a 5 mil. I just don't like them for cutting bow drill notches.
Yeah, agreed. Because I designed my own knife with Stony Path.
You took the words out of my mouth there, Tom, because I was going to say this is a beauty.
He basically did a similar thing to what you've done, Josh, in that I took his basic Woodlaw copy, Woodlaw clone, and then I put the sort of changes that I would want to see in my dream knife on it. So I got him to increase the finger choil.
Yeah.
Because I like to tip split. I like to sort of stab it into wood and not really. I don't like the idea of worrying about running my hand down the blade.
No, completely.
So that was one thing I wanted to change, and then I also upped the thickness from 4 mil to 5 mil, and that thing is a tank.
Yeah, I've yet to use it, but I'm really looking forward to handling it in the fresh. I've seen photographs of it, and it's an absolute unit, mate.
I'll bring the Bushcraft show for you to play with.
Yeah, please do.
The one that I'm enjoying at the moment is the Fyrd and Steel Omega, which is also in 5 mil.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have a finger guard at all. That's basically a traditional Puko. There's no finger guard at all. But the rock pattern he's put on it does give you a positive grip. And if I tip with it, I just put my thumb on top just to make sure that I'm not going to slide.
It's got that kind of canto design.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a brilliant knife, and because it's 5 mil, he's compensated by bringing the grind up higher on.
You have to kind of match the edge geometry.
And that's where my Castrom fails, and I think that's partly down to Tormek when I'm not dissing Tormek at any stage here, but when I got my blade Tormek sharpened,
They were
the
drunk.
grind yeah, that was it. It was just like really shallow, so it was quite, yeah, quite acute, not acute enough. Sorry, it was just almost like chisel grind on both sides, like really short, stubby grind, and it took a lot of work actually to get that back.
I think the problem we have is a lot of the knives that you can buy, these, the sort of like mid-range bushcraft knives. They make them with very very shallow but wide scanty grinds, and that's very easy to sharpen. It's very easy to mass produce them. But when it comes to actually using them, the grind is so wide that they don't actually pass through the material properly, and they also dull a lot faster, because as you wear the apex of your edge, if it's got a wider grind, it's just going to round off much quicker than if you've got a thinner grind. Yeah. But also, if your grind is too thin, on the other hand, you are going to end up having like problems of chipping and rolling and all that sort of stuff. So basically, what you want to do as a knife maker is find this happy medium. You want to find something that's going to hold an edge, it's going to cut well, but it's not going to be delicate. You also want to make something that has a perfectly lovely balance and feel in the hand. You basically, if you're a customer who's spending X amount of money on a custom knife, you want something that you A, feel like you can rely on, and B, it makes you smile every time you take it out of a sheath.
That is the golden dust, isn't it? I mean, like, I do not need the number of knives that I have, but every single one that I have kept, because I sold a knife this week. I sell knives I don't use, but the ones that I have kept in my collection are the ones that make me smile and that I enjoy using.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can't always put my finger on it, because I've got knives that are tiny that I've kept because I love them. Yeah. I've got knives that are huge that I would probably never ever take camping. My Wanda
Tactica.
You've got loads of those big knives like that.
Huge, but I bloody love the thing. It's like, it just makes me smile when I split a log that like you'd need a splitting axe to use to split. If I batten through that with my Wanda Tactical, it's basically like carrying a throw with me.
Yeah. Well, it held up with the Brush and Cutlass Co. gill pin, which is a big old kind of, that's a butchery blade from like the Jamaica or Barbados or something like that. It's designed off, and that thing's long. But your Wanda Tactical kept up with that, bramble clearing, with brush cutting, everything.
And that's a 6mm, a 6.5mm, I think. The thing that they've got that's really good is that their edge geometry just works. And actually, I've done bow drill notches. I've done one tool option bow drills. There's a video on my channel of one of the Bushcraft shows. And I was using huge, like, basically forearm length Bushcraft knife.
Yeah, you gave me a go.
With a 6mm spine on it, and I use that as a one tool for the show basically, and it works. Because they've got the balance right, they've got the edge geometry, as you say, Josh. They've just got that nailed.
It's finding that balance, and you also you should also know, like, you don't have to go out and buy a particularly like a knife that's designed for bushcraft. I did a camp a while ago, one tool option, and the tool I chose to take with me was an old 1890s butcher's knife, the sort of the sort of thing they would have had in the frontier. You know what I mean? Like things like 2mm thick, really basic carbon steel, but you can sharpen on a pebble.
Yeah, literally.
But the thing worked. The thing worked. I did a little bit of splitting of it, a little bit of chopping and hacking, and made a few tent pegs. Nothing major or anything like that. But the thing worked for like your general camping stuff. And it's also like, most people in the UK, like when we're going out and we're just doing an overnighter, how much are we using our knives for these hard tasks?
Yeah. Well, that question was raised to me when in one of my previous episodes, where I actually lost my Castron Woodsman. I lost it when I went for a little stroll around the woods in the evening.
You didn't use sheath, Liam, that's what.
Yeah, the sheath had become really loose, so that's another point about the leather work. If you're using leather, obviously over time it will slacken, it will stretch, and I remember going over, stepping over a few logs and stuff. So there was plenty of opportunities for it to have kind of hopped out of there.
Yeah.
But luckily I had my Boca Worldwide with me, so in the morning I could kind of say, actually, you know, if I did need to do anything and I can't find it, I've got a backup, I've got a contingency
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
But it's about knowing your capabilities of your blade. You know, I'm not going to be batoning with a folder.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where you want to be able to trust on a bushcraft knife. And something why I was really impressed with yours was the kind of it's not a small blade, but it's not a big blade. It's that perfect balance.
Yeah. It's. I think it's about. Was it the blade's 12 centimeters long?
Yeah, you love your big knives, don't you, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I like, as I've said, I literally just like knives. So I'll make it. I want to do a full episode on big knives.
Yeah.
They get such a bad rap, but actually, if you learn to use them, they can be really useful. And like, they can do brush clearing, small tree felling, splitting.
100%.
But then at the same time, if I only had a small 2 mm thick Ben Orford carving knife,
Yeah.
I'd still be okay and still be quite happy with what was on my hip, because I just have to use it differently. And
Yeah, know your limits.
with different tools, you actually get comfortable with the different techniques you can do with different styles of tools. And actually that whole like intent is so important. So the reason I got my 5mm knives was because of doing the courses.
Yeah.
And on the courses, we're showing people how to batten.
Mm.
And actually, I could spend an entire day pretty much demonstrating battening to different groups, and I will do more battening in one day than most people would do in a year.
Yeah.
And that's
Exactly.
putting a lot of use on one knife. And so I actually got the two 5mm knives, bushcraft knives that I've got, because of the fact that I'm doing a lot of courses where I'm demonstrating battening over and over again.
Yeah, a Mora wouldn't handle it, would it?
No, and we have seen
It would, but you know, it takes its toll.
They're brilliant knives. But
I've seen one break. I've seen one Mora companion break from battening.
yeah.
And that was on a very knotty bit.
Yeah, that's it. It's usually down to user error or picking a slightly too dense bit of wood.
Yeah.
Well seasoned.
But I choose the thicker knives for when I'm demonstrating battening, because I'll be putting so much more wear on that knife over the course of the day than a user would do in a year.
What do you give your clients? What knives do you? What
We
knives
give Morris, and they
same.
with those, and they're perfectly good for battening.
Yeah.
It just, if I'm demoing it, I might be going around group to group and showing them all my technique over and over again.
Yes. Yeah.
Normally, I get the scraps of the wood as well, because we give them the nice clean bits.
The creme de la creme.
Knots in, and so that's my reasoning for carrying a slightly thicker knife, is because I'll be battening way more than the clients will, and they can get away with going through the day with a Mora and do absolutely fine with it, whereas I'll probably do 10 times the amount of battening that they will in that day. So
I've heard a lot of good things about. Is it the Condor Adventurer or Condor?
Oh, the Pterosaur.
Pterosaur, that's it.
Yeah. That new, but it's. I think it's kind of similar prospects to the Mora Garberg. It's like a larger tang within, your same sort of, your Scandi blade. I think they do a stainless. No, it's not stainless. It's a carbon like 1095 sort of thing in that.
Yeah, slightly full tang, is it? Or
yeah. The only thing I say about the Condor stuff, though, in regards to Mora, I think the Mora do a harder heat treat, which I personally prefer.
Found that.
Yeah.
Well, I know my Condor Bush Law was it definitely didn't retain its edge as much. Hence why I then upgraded to the Castrum.
They're in like the mid 50s if you're going Rockwell hardness.
Right.
The one I was teaching with mostly over the last couple of years has been a Mora Garberg.
Yeah.
That's been like
work
knife. Yeah, totally. And that's still the knife that I'll take to if I was going on an expedition somewhere or something like that, and I didn't want to take maybe something that was a little bit more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would still just take that. I mean, we're going to be doing a load of bushcraft demos and like workshops at Glastonbury Festival this year.
Yeah, because you do a lot of events, don't you, Josh?
Yeah. Make loads of them. Yeah, but that's the knife I'm going to choose, because I don't want to sort of have a nice free £400 knife in there and get it lost or nicked or something.
Sure. I actually know one of the instructors that I first went to courses with. He had a knife nicked at the Bushcraft show.
No way.
I remember him telling me that. So yeah, he lost in New Zealand at the Bushcraft show. So
It's heartbreaking, isn't it? And it's like you think you're there, sort of spreading the love and helping people and sharing skills and all that, and then someone goes and nicks your knife. It's a bit of a
low blow, eh?
Yeah, it kind of takes the whole edge of it off of it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Speaking of shows, though, what are you guys doing this year?
Bushcraft show, and before that we got. Me and Tom make it annually to the Bushcraft show, don't we, bud?
Yeah, it's a pilgrimage at this point.
It is, yeah, and your dad's coming along.
He is.
Is he?
Well, my dad's just had a major heart operation, so
Yeah.
he's been in hospital. He's out. He actually, whilst they were putting in stents, he had an artery burst.
And he was awake for all of this, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. So I think he's had a bit of a traumatic couple of weeks. So it'd be really nice for him to be out doing something relaxing. So yeah, it'd be nice to have my dad there again. So best wishes to him for a speedy recovery, but he'll be there.
Oh, make sure your dad has a relaxing time, Tom.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the Bushcraft show, and obviously Craig from East Anglian Bushcraft's going to be there. A lot of his kind of clan, which is great. I know me and Josh spent some time with him down at the coastal camp with Dustin for Bushcraft tools. It was absolutely epic. Such a good night. We were camped next to each other on the only bit of sand on the whole beach.
That was such a hot weekend, mate. I remember the next day I pretty much had heat stroke.
It was blitz, mate. It was so hot.
But it was so good. It was so good.
But yeah, me and Craig are helping host, or we're hosting a community camp as well, which I know I've mentioned before. That's happening on the 24th to the 26th of June, and it's down in Kent in the UK. Tom, I know you're coming along. You're going to be...
Absolutely. I'm going to be set up next to you, Liam. You're not escaping me, mate. I'm going to...
No, that's it.
Right next to you, helping out, and that actually goes out to you guys who listen to this. If you do want a chance to actually meet the Wodesman and actually have a chat to us around a fire, community camp would be a great opportunity for that. We're going to be probably recording some episodes while we're there. But yeah, if you are coming to that, do just come and say hello. It'd be great for us to meet some of the people that actually listen to this. I did meet two of our listeners actually on a frontier course. I was helping them doing a one match fire, and they turned to me and go, "You're Tom from the Wodesman, right?" And I was like, "Oh my god!"
Now my match has gone out.
Yeah, I was like, "Burn my finger now. Start again." But no, it would be so good to see some of you guys actually at that camp and supporting Liam and EA Bushcraft with their first community camp, because it's going to be great. I can't wait.
It's a lovely location. I mean, it's a Western style ranch. It is literally like stepping back into the late 1800s, just rocking up to like Amarillo, Texas, and it's just incredible. And I know you're going to be putting on some of your hand carving pieces for sale. We're going
to so that's why I was on the shave horse all day today. I was blanking out some spatula blanks. I've got spoons carved. I've got loads of stuff. So I'm going to have a little stall there. I'll also do some demos throughout the day so people can learn a little bit as well about how I carve a spoon. It's not necessarily how everyone carves a spoon, it's just how I do it. Some knife safety, some axe safety, some sharpening, all that sort of stuff will be going.
You'll be helping along when there's a bit of firelighting demos, because I'm going to be doing some demonstrations on firelighting, kind of campcraft, so not the carving aspect of things, kind of like fire management, fire safety, even if people are interested in knots to use for like setting up a tarp, I'm going to be demonstrating those. Just up there for a general chit chat. I know a lot of it's going to be conversation, getting to know different people, but it's going to be great. I mean, I think tickets are about £35 and it's a whole weekend. You get included in that a hog roast, you get some craft beers, each ticket comes with a basically 1 in 3 chance of winning an axe. So there's 3 axes up for giveaway.
What are the axes?
So I'm not sure. Craig has only sent me some photos. I didn't actually get close up enough to find the finer details, but I'll let you know. But yeah, 3 axes, really nice. They've all got strike guards on them, really nice axes.
Nice.
I think one's a bearded axe actually, so I'm quite jealous. But every person who's got a ticket gets a free entry to that raffle. So yeah, 3 axes to get, and it's only £35, and you get hog roast, open mic night. It's brilliant.
We can do
Right.
some death metal, Liam.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
Hey.
Guys, I honestly wish I was able to come along to it.
I know
It's
just
going to be such a good weekend.
inconvenient timing, isn't it? Because what are you doing, Josh? Today? It's pretty...
So you met my friend Smitty.
Absolutely legend.
Yeah, good guy. So he's kind of like one of the guys who helps me run the courses. Fantastic guy.
Yeah.
So we're going to be at Glastonbury Festival in the teepee field, running bushcraft workshops. So we're doing bow drill, carving workshops, primitive arrow making,
Lovely.
all those kind of things. So yeah, I can't really turn that gig down. But
that's so sick, dude. So if any of our listeners are raving it up in Glastonbury,
Absolutely.
Yeah, come and join me. We'll have a little
bushcraft stand in the TP section of Glastonbury. That's going to be sick.
Yeah, you will not be disappointed, because not only is Josh a top fella, he really knows his stuff. And I mean, even your primitive arrow making and stuff, you've always been interested in the kind of primitive stuff, haven't you?
Yeah, mate, totally. It's like the whole sort of flint napping and the sort of prim tech side of things. It's always been like probably my niche when it comes to the bushcraft skills, I suppose. You guys have got into that recently as well. I've seen you've been doing the flint napping and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, I'm terrible at it.
Mate, it's difficult though. Like, what are you starting with flint, or are you using other sort of materials? Try obsidian.
Yeah, I've got some obsidian.
You can buy preforms and things like that, and really get your pressure flaking technique down.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Awesome.
I've just been picking up stones and like bits of chunks of flint I find on walks and smashing them together and seeing what happens.
Nice.
I enjoy it, and that's the thing. Like, no one's an expert at everything, and no one's like, you're never an expert at anything really. There's always something more you can learn.
Yeah, amen.
For me, the thing I think I'm the most crap at is flint napping.
It's a whole journey, mate. It's
food
a whole journey.
acquisition. We'll get onto that in a minute.
One of the things I had to play with the other day was a friend of mine gave me a replica of the axe that Otzi was found with.
Oh yeah.
Made out of copper.
That's awesome.
So we went up the woods and sort of halved that up with some sinew and some
that's amazing.
Pitch pine resin and all that kind of things. Actually, mate, it's a very usable tool. It cuts. It does what you want a little axe to do.
That's brilliant. And it's so nice using like raw materials, isn't it, as well? You know, like you say about the pine pitch, there's something to it. It's just satisfying, you know, knowing that you've gone out and harvested that, and now you've got a kind of basically a thermoplastic, a very primitive thermoplastic.
Yeah,
same with the sinews. You know, I've been doing a lot of deer stalking stuff lately, so I've been saving the sinews. I've actually, in fact, been tanning the hides at the moment. Well, not strictly tanning them. I mean, I've fleshed them all. I salted them, which is an important stage in kind of setting the hair and making sure that doesn't start shedding out, because obviously then you just end up with either
skin,
raw hide or
buckskin or something like that.
Buckskin, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then I did the salting method, and I was doing, while the salting was going, I was researching kind of different tans. I wasn't too keen on getting the brain out of these particular deer, because I actually wanted to keep the skulls as kind of teaching examples. So I thought I'll bury those, let Mother Nature take over.
Yeah.
And so I thought this one I actually have done with an alum and a salt pickle. So it's not a traditional tan. It's not a waterproof tan, whereas normal tans would be waterproof. So after this process, I'm then going to smoke the hide to then introduce those tannins to give it that bit of water repellency and kind of oil the hide. But doing stuff like that, you know, using bits from an animal and integrating those at bushcraft, so awesome.
Well, that will help combat smells as well, the smoking, and help with its like preserving it, I guess. I think that's why I like the carving. It's like I go into a woodland, I find a coppice stall, coppice a bit of wood, and I make something that I then use for years. And it's that taking that primitive skill that I have, taking a piece of raw material from the forest and then turning it into something that's then practical and purposeful. And I will never get bored of that feeling. And I think that's what the two were so surprised with on the course, was I think they probably expected me to give them some like blanks and we did a carving from there. But actually I gave them basically a log that I'd sawn up, and we split it up with a froe. We sawed it up with a bow saw, and turned a tree into spatulas and spoons. And I think that's the cool thing about bushcraft.
Yeah.
And talking about your deer hunting, Liam, first of all, huge congratulations on getting your DSC1.
Hey, thank
well
you,
done,
buddy.
mate. Well done.
Yeah, that was a journey.
To our listeners, like, no joke, you know me and Liam talk like daily, and like I would ring Liam in the middle of like a revision session and he'd have like all these deer books open like daily, like not even kidding, like he properly worked hard for this. So huge congratulations to you for passing that, dude.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's something I've been
first two deer as well.
Yeah, it's something I've been so passionate about. Not only just deer, but kind of hunting as well. It's something I feel is really important to the development of us as a species, but also the management of our surrounding areas, because we might have listeners who are far spread and wide across the plains of America where there's plenty of land, but again still warrant incredible management schemes, because we just don't have the natural landscape and the natural range that we used to have. So to look after the ecology of your local area and do it respectfully is so important to me. So I obviously wanted, a few years ago I did my first kind of proper traditional kind of, I guess you could say, deer stalk, Chinese water deer, and then was progressed onto a muntjac deer, but really stopped there because I wanted to focus on learning about what I was doing. I didn't want to just be going out there shooting a deer. I wanted to know what was I contributing towards, what's the kind of ins and outs of deer stalking, why are there seasons, why are they invasive species, how do they differ from our natural our natural habitats. Like red deer really are probably our only true native that have been here since the Ice Age.
What's the story with roe deer, Liam? When did they first reach?
I wouldn't want to say when they've arrived. I think they are native, but from when, I'm not sure. I know red deer can definitely be traced back to the Ice Age.
Okay.
But then even then, red deer, really, if you're looking for a purebred red deer, you're going to be looking in the Outer Hebrides.
Yeah.
Because Sika deer are the only deer that can hybridize with red deer.
Are they still in the same? Are they still in the same genus?
Yes. Yeah, they are. I believe it's the Cervus family.
Cervus, yeah. So you got Cervus elephas, which is red deer, and then
red deer and Cervus. Yeah, that's it. So the Japanese Sika, and they can interbreed. So actually, if you're looking for a pure species of red deer, you've got to look where there's a vast enough amount of water between them, because of course deer can swim as well. So it's even learning little things like that, learning when they shed, why they shed their antlers, what shed their antlers older, or and even then down to how can I use those materials or identify diseases to then, let's say if I was in the wild and I had to rely on a carcass, could I identify if that carcass is going to kill me?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. You don't want to end up doing what the old what's that movie where the guy's in the bus?
Into the
Wild. Yes.
Yeah, you don't want to end up doing that and shooting a moose and then like not knowing what to do with it and it all going off and just wasted it.
Yeah, the guilt of that.
Get sick from it or whatever. But actually, this is a fantastic little segue, because I had a message on the Wodesman a few weeks ago now, and I've not replied to it until today because I wanted to make sure we could do it justice, because I'm clueless about hunting. I've
only set up my new phone as well, so I haven't been able to look.
Liam's been unable to access the messages on the Wodesman, so it's all. If you haven't had a reply in the last few weeks, it's all down to me. So you can send your hate mail to me, and I will just get it put into spam so I can't see it and be offended. But we had a lovely message from a guy called Anthony Shreve, and I'd like to actually read his message on our episode today, because I think it will prompt a really good discussion whilst we've got you, Liam, and also Josh.
Yeah.
Because Liam, you've the experience of deer stalking and you've just passed your DSC1, and then Josh, I know you're really into your air rifle and your small game stuff.
Yes.
So I thought it would be really good to save answering this question rather than me just type a reply, as I don't really know much about hunting. It would be good to get you guys to respond to this actually on mic, because I thought we'd get a better answer that way.
Nice. Well, we hope not to disappoint.
Yeah, I've set you up to fail now, haven't I?
Hey. Josh, it's all
cool.
on you, bro.
Yeah. So Anthony says, hello from the United States, specifically backwoods Maryland. I was wondering if you and Liam could talk about hunting in the United Kingdom, such as the laws and regulations and the accessibility of hunting ground. I have family over in England near Birmingham, and my brother lives near London. I'm a huge fan of the work both you guys do. Keep up the good work. Best wishes, Anthony Shreve. Thanks so much, Anthony, for your message. Now, I'm not a hunter. It's something I've said to Liam. Liam knows I'm really keen to learn about hunting. Yeah. I've got an air rifle. I'm massively into shooting. I used to go to like Bisley rifle range and do like shooting there. I used to go to every open day of every gun range in my local area, so that I didn't have to be a member, but I could turn up and shoot all the different calibers. So I've shot everything from black powder pistol to lever actions, shotgun, 308, 223, 243. I love shooting as a sport.
Yeah.
I have an air rifle. I do catapult shooting as a bit of fun, airsoft as a bit of fun.
Or even airsoft.
Yeah, so all of that stuff. Like I really enjoy using firearms in a sporting sense, but I've never actually been in an opportunity where I could go hunting. I've never been in an area where someone said, "Do you want to come with me on this hunt?" I've never actually had that as an opportunity. So it's something I want to do in future. I know me and you, Liam, have talked about how I'm going to come and hopefully witness you on a stalk. And I'd like to do some small game stuff.
Small game stuff, yeah.
Bring out my air rifle and get some pigeon or some rabbit or something and do a sort of catch and cook. So it's something I want to do. It's just something I've never done. And so I want to be really clear that anything I'm adding to this conversation is from a position of someone who sees the benefit and advocates for hunting for food, but has never actually done it themselves. I've skinned rabbits, I've skinned pigeon that other people have shot while I've been with them.
Yeah.
But I've never, and I've prepared that into meat. I've taught people how to do rabbits on courses, or at least assisted with that. Mm-hmm. And cut up a whole load of rabbit. I'm very used to the stink. It's just I've never actually done it myself. So I thought you guys would probably be in a better position than me to answer this question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Josh, you probably know you all too well, like our land problem over here. We don't particularly have the best public land access compared to America.
No.
It's few and far between if you can find a space to shoot on, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
I think it froze for a second there. I completely lost you guys for 10 seconds.
I've got you. You all good?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, we're good.
Sorry, I was completely on my own there in the call for a second. I thought it completely crashed.
No worries. I think you just lagged out for a second, so I think it might have been a glitch on your end.
Yeah. No, you're all good, Tom.
Cool.
We can
hear you.
Okay, so small game hunting from our perspective and actually getting ground to hunt on, I suppose. It's difficult, really, because it's a case of going around and knocking on landowners' doors, having friends who have land, various different bits of ground you can shoot on. You can't shoot in the UK on land that you don't have permission for. That is poaching.
Yeah.
Very naughty. None of us would ever do that, obviously.
No.
Yeah, I suppose it's just a case of getting your permission, making sure that you're adept with a rifle. You can actually hit the right sort of spot on an animal, you can make a clean kill.
Yeah.
I do a lot of hunting with an air rifle. Mainly sort of like small game, so sort of like rabbits, pigeons, squirrels, all that sort of stuff. A lot of that is done around my own land, and there's a few bits of land around the area that I also frequent on. I also do a lot of a catapult as well, so quite a bit of hunting with a catapult, and that's the same sort of thing, mainly like the small game again. With a catapult, the same laws apply as it would with an air rifle. So you need to have your permission.
Yeah.
You need to make sure you've got a good backstop. I think with the hunting laws in the UK, even going on like small caliber tools, air rifles, 2.2 rimfires, catapults. You've got to make sure you've got a good backstop. You've got to make sure that you're not shooting near a road or houses, things like that. Again, the same with the wild camping. It's like you're representing a scene here.
Yeah.
So
we don't want it half-injured animals running around. We don't.
Exactly.
It's not what we're after. Even using stuff like rocks and stones can be counted. If you use that in a catapult, for example, that counts as stoning an animal to death.
Yeah.
Even more illegal.
That's illegal. I mean, the main thing we want to do is not, deliver that clean kill that we owe to the animal.
Yeah.
And also not put any of Granny Goggins' windows out.
Exactly. Don't want anyone in danger, or you don't want to make someone feel intimidated by your presence. That's not why we're out there. And like you say, drawing that point to like making sure it's a clean kill. I mean, I know, Tom, you congratulated me on my two successful stalks since getting my DSC1. It was actually on my first muntjac stalk that we kind of rounded a corner, and there was a really nice young buck, not in antler, but really long pedicles. So it kind of indicated that it was a very young bit of stock, really. Because the longer the pedicles are, and the pedicles are the bone growth under the antler. So it's a bone growth that's covered in hair. The longer that is, the younger the animal, because every successive year of casting its antler, that recedes until it's back basically at skull level. So this was really, really nice example of a buck, and it was only about 20 yards away from me. The rifle I was using zeroed at 100 yards. I didn't quite calculate the zeroing calculation. So when I shot, I actually hit it a tiny bit low. I needed to aim a tiny bit higher. I still got a very good shot in it. It was great placement, but it darted. And during the reload phase, I lost sight on it for a few seconds, heard a kind of clattering to the right of the deer. And obviously, still being fairly novice to the whole deer stalking scene, assumed that was the same deer. So I didn't actually retrieve that carcass until the next day because it was getting really, really dark. I found the blood splatter, which indicated a good impact, massive trauma. So I thought, well, it's obviously done a runner to the right and laid down in the rhubarb somewhere. I'm not going to be able to find it. We searched for about half an hour, weren't successful. So the next day went out with the dogs and actually found it was 20 yards in the opposite direction.
Oh, no.
So it's actually another deer that was just undercover in that rhododendrons that we didn't see, that had made all that clattering of noise. So luckily, it was a really sleepless night for me. I was thinking, oh no, this poor deer.
You rang me quite upset, didn't you?
Yeah.
Hopefully you didn't mind me saying that. But yeah, you were like, because you're actually an animal lover. Like I've seen Liam with his chickens, and like you would never get someone who likes his chickens more than Liam. But at the same time, Liam is a meat eater. Like we're all animal lovers. I love animals. I've got a hamster sitting next to me while we're recording. I absolutely adore animals. But at the same time, I eat meat.
Yeah, I could probably walk mine around the village if,
Yeah,
I think every responsible hunter, every hunter who actually, is going about it in a proper way, is an animal lover, and as we're fulfilling our role in our own belief system of how we fit into the food chain.
Yeah, you care for the animals, and you want to see good management for that species. You want to see the habitats they rely on be maintained to the point where their species can continue healthily, and you want to give them a clean death. And to be honest, like you going out, Liam, and shooting a deer and filling up your freezer for the next 6 months with that deer's had a heck of a better life than a battery cow, for example.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a lot more ethical, and I think a lot of the time people don't realise the fact that we've also taken out all of the other apex predators in our ecosystem.
Yes.
So we don't have wolves anymore. We don't have lynx. We don't have bear. So we have to fill that role now.
Yeah.
And that's our responsibility to do that in a in a humane and in a way that benefits the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, well, something my dad's priest, when he was a very young kid, actually said to my dad, and it's something he's always repeated to me. He said, and it can, initially it can sound very controversial, but it's the second part that really reinforces what the first part means. He says animals don't have rights, and then he pauses for a second. He said we have responsibilities on behalf of them. Because an animal can't have rights in the sense of it doesn't have responsibility, in the sense of it doesn't sit there thinking, what does tomorrow bring? It just thinks of the there and the now, and the instinct of, food, shelter, safety, warmth, dry. At the right season, it's breeding season, the pheromones are in the air. We have a responsibility on behalf of those animals to know when it's their breeding season, so we're not going to be leaving a fawn abandoned, orphaned.
It's like even when you look at, like, not even just deer, just like even going back to small game, like rabbits, pigeons, like looking at how a warren operates and how you have the nurseries and how you have the bucks that come in to the females, and how how that, I guess, that society of whatever you're hunting is working, rather than just being like, oh, there's a rabbit, I'm going to shoot it. It's like, the time that you take to actually watch and understand the behavior of these animals is so much more beneficial to how you're targeting and selecting various ones to cull or to shoot.
I think what you're saying there, Josh, as well, is people don't realise that. Like, I know there's a huge anti-hunting portion of people in the UK who see like trophy hunters. Not everyone with the same brush.
Totally.
100 grand to go out and shoot a lion and mount it on their wall. It's not the same thing as what we're talking about here. We're talking about people who understand the species, really care for the management and continuation.
That's it. Like we're not all just going out and dropping everything in sight,
No, and I even think, in certain, and I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole now, it definitely warrants a whole kind of episode and section on that, and maybe we can get you back for that, Josh, because obviously, it's been a really good discussion today with you. But, trophy hunting, even in that sense, let's say if there was that big, obviously, case of that lion, the named lion that got killed. In fact, when, on researching deeper into it, it turns out that the lion was actually going to be killed anyway. It was going to have to be euthanized because it was causing a disturbance not only with the genealogy of the area, but it was actually just a nuisance lion.
Was this a rogue male?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So this lion was going to be put down, but it was a named lion, as tourists had given it a kind of name, so it was a bit more of an issue when it got shot, but it was due to be euthanized anyway. The money, the $150,000 that they managed to raise and auction for the shot of this lion, which was going to be shot anyway, then went into the conservation and upkeep of the rest of the national park. So there's always that aspect.
And well. people don't realise this. That's the issue.
Yeah.
It all just goes on headlines and tabloids, and just becomes this online sensation. Then people get they get tarnished and their reputations get hammered. And it's honestly, people need to read between the lines a little bit sometimes, I think.
Well, that's it. And it's even like we have lots of really strict laws like here. We're not going to get onto the firearm law and things like that, which has its pros and also makes it difficult for us to get them for sport. But at the same time, there are pros to that. But then there's also the thing, like, we can't hunt with a bow here legally.
Mm.
And I know I've spoken to you, Josh, about this before.
Yeah.
Now, actually, you're giving the animal a better chance of escaping if you're using a bow.
You're also giving it a much better chance of wounding it. That's the only issue.
Right.
And I'll be honest, I would love to be able to bow hunt in the UK legally. I would absolutely love it, because I'm an avid archer. I'm very behind it, and I love watching videos from America of people who are bow hunting and things like that. But I do understand the problem that it brings. When you're hunting the rifle, you're killing with hydrostatic shock and kinetic energy delivery, which causes more trauma and therefore a cleaner kill. However, when you're hunting with a bow, you are just cutting. You are cutting through the vital
trauma. It's smaller trauma. You know?
Yes, it's a different kind of trauma. You have to, you're basically you're severing a vital organ rather than just going in and just delivering like a punch wound. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not as humane, but it can be.
This is where tip ballistics again go in. It's it's situational again, isn't it? Even the humidity on the day can determine whether a bow is accurate.
100%. I mean, what sort of caliber are you using for your muntjac at the moment?
Anywhere between 250 and a 243.
Okay, so that's like that's a ballpark figure. That's similar sort of stuff to a 223 for the American listeners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So a lot smaller, lighter.
Smaller projectile, but a bit of a bang behind it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's what we like, though. It's the same with like the air rifles. Like, so I personally shoot 177 now rather than a 22 because I've just found it delivers a little bit more kinetic energy at the point of impact. It's faster and it slows down quicker. If you use the right projectiles. It's also your ammunition selection plays a big part in it.
I know you like your ballistics, Josh. I see your ballistic gel tests with all your 177 rounds.
Yeah, I use a 22 as well. I have a little 22 that's my truck gun. So if I'm driving around the woodland, I've got a little 22 that's great for just
little plinker.
Yeah, out the window, squirrels or something,
Yeah, I must say I like a 2.2 with my air rifle, but as I say, I like that from a target shooting perspective because I'm coming at everything firearms and air rifles from a target shooting perspective.
Yeah, and that's respectable though. I mean, probably a good way of summing this up is probably about explaining what it's like here in the UK and kind of reply to the original question. It's we all three of us here have a different kind of perspective on that, I guess, because of where we live, our local environments.
I'm just outside London, so like if I walked down the street with an air rifle, I'd be shot. Like,
really? What? Even in a case?
Well, no. I mean, if I was to go out with it,
well, in your local parkland.
Yeah, I mean, the SWAT team would turn up, wouldn't it? So, I mean, there's very little hunting land where I live, and definitely none where I could get permission on.
I mean, even me, I'm in kind of that cross between suburbia. It used to be more countryside, and now the city cancer's kind of getting a bit ever closer and pushing up to the boundaries. So even for me, I know one or two farmers who are okay with me going on their land, and that's becoming ever increasingly small as they sell up in their end of life, and it turns into housing estates. And I'm seeing that
is now.
Yeah, I'm seeing that opportunity really go, and that's where it becomes quite hard because then when I'm doing deer stalking, it's either through a syndicate and you're paying a lot of money, and it almost becomes, is it worth it for the meat? Yeah, it's worth it. But, it just becomes a bit more of a shame at that point. And
there is a place in, where is it? I think it might be Sussex.
Because you're right down in the countryside, as we say.
Well, right in the countryside, don't I? But
country bumpkin over there.
But that's been a thing for me growing up. We got introduced to guns when we were about 6 years old. We've been shooting. Sorry, you might be able to hear my dog in the background.
Hey,
she's moaning.
I know that.
Josh, thought you were getting hungry.
Yeah. No, well, she's eating. It's because there's a ball under the sofa, and she wants me to get it for her.
Hey.
But I digress. So yeah, we've been lucky enough to sort of do it for a long time and sort of have a lot of ground around us that we could shoot on. But there are places in the UK like where you can actually book a pitch, wild camp, and do air rifle shooting.
Nice.
There's one in Sussex. I'm just actually going to Google it now if anyone's interested.
I want to do that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Maybe we have to do a Wodesman camp, all three of us.
Yeah.
That's sick. We'll bring our air rifles because Liam, you just bought a new air rifle, didn't you?
I did. I got an R10. Josh had a little go on it.
Oh, it's lovely, mate. Yeah, the other weekend Liam came up to mine and we had little. Well, there was Rory there as well, who had all of the he had the thermal scope, the night vision, all that sort of stuff on several different PCPs. I had a play of yours, you had a play of mine. It was
even a bit of archery. That was good. I almost decapitated your squirrel.
had a little bit of fiddle with each other's guns, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, there was an archery target.
Oh yeah, it was great. Archery, axe throwing, all the stuff, mate.
But what was your target? That was like a foam. It had like a little squirrel on one side and an owl. I have to explain that because otherwise listeners will think I actually went archery and shot a real squirrel.
Yeah, no. So it was a foam 3D target of a log, and then there's a squirrel on one side and then an owl on the other. So we were all aiming for. I think we were aiming for the squirrel's head mostly, weren't we?
Yeah, it was great fun.
But back to the thing. If anyone's interested, it's called Pete's Airgun Farm, airgunfarm.co.uk, and it's in Essex. And you can basically book on there, and you can camp and go and shoot the many acres of woodland and arable farmland.
Ooh.
If you don't have permission and you want to have a little weekend away with your gun,
that's awesome. Yeah,
that's like a good place to go.
It's going to be fully booked out now. We won't get on it ourselves.
Yeah. Shout out to Pete's Airgun Farm, though.
Definitely. No, I really like that one. I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up. We've been, we've covered a lot of topics there, and it's, I'm sure we could go for hours and hours and hours, but we're definitely going to have to get you on for round 2, I think.
Yeah. I love that, mate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've covered everything, finding a wild camping spot, like hunting law, hunting morality, all that sort of stuff, in one episode. So, hopefully our little rambling has been interesting for people. Josh is such a lovely guy, and it's been really nice to have him on, talking everything from knives to guns to such a boyish episode, this, isn't it?
Yeah, and can we give our viewers or listeners, I guess, rather, an idea of where to find you and find some of your work? Because like we said before, I wish we had more time to chat about it. You make some absolutely beautiful knives, and Tom, I can't wait for you personally to have a little go on Josh's, because I know how much of a knife lover you are, and this is just
I can't wait.
Mate, we'll have a bit of a show and tell when I next see you.
That's it, Josh. You've been sending me pictures and like specs, and you've been going through your making process with me on Facebook. And I'm so stoked to actually see them in the flesh and have a go. So you guys, Josh is our first knife maker we've had on Wodesman. I'm sure he won't be the last, but you guys owe it to yourselves to go and check out Josh's knives and his work. So it's great.
Where can they find you, Josh?
Right, so you can either get me on Facebook, which is Avalon Bushcraft, which is my the company that we run bushcraft courses with. Or you can get me on Instagram at Fyrd Woods, so that's FYRD_Woods. Alternatively, if you are at the Wilderness Gathering, we're going to have a stall there doing demos and selling knives and all that kind of fun stuff.
Brilliant.
And Glastonbury Festival and Bushcraft Show. So
yep.
Anyone's
and
there,
unfortunately not the community camp.
Yeah, unfortunately not. But the other things, if you're there, come say hi. We can have a little chinwag and have a beer, and it'd be wicked.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, Josh, it's been fantastic having you on, dude. We've chatted for an hour and 50 minutes at this point, and we've only just scratched the surface. Like, we didn't plan this episode. We were like, Josh is a mate, both of ours. So we were just like, let's just jump on and chat about things that mean a lot to us. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed joining us in our little online catch up.
Yeah, it's been
guys in our next episode, I guess.
Yeah, it's been so nice having, you know, a lot of this discussion based around some of your questions. And I think that's really what we always initially wanted the podcast to be about. It's not about us, even though it's our podcast. It's about you guys, the listener. It's about us as a community. And, you know, just like how me and Josh met and me and Tom met, and all three of us meeting at that very one Bushcraft show all those years ago. You know, we're here now delivering this to you, and hopefully you can find some of your Bushcraft friends that are probably in your local area and form something similar.
Absolutely. I mean, I really value the friends I've made in the outdoor space, and like genuinely, like they've become like you guys have become like some of my best friends in the world. So I would never have met either of you without the Bushcraft scene. So hopefully our listeners can find similar little communities that they can form and have conversations like this around a bottle of whiskey. I've got a significant amount of whiskey on this episode.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm about due to refill this can or get another one. So, Josh,
guys, honestly, thank you so much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And like you were saying, I can remember growing up and really kind of like the whole Bushcraft scene didn't really exist. It was all just online forums and all this kind of thing. And now, you know, I met you guys. There's this huge community of us around, and it's just, it's biblical. Like, I couldn't have hoped for anything better than to meet amazing people like yourselves through this shared passion.
It's nice to be part of that younger generation kind of flying the flag for the Bushcraft scene over here in the UK, because it's been quiet for a hell of a long time. It's nice to see that awakening, and two people I wouldn't rather do it with.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like there's a new sort of energy, isn't there, around it at the moment, and I think that's going to definitely be present at the community camp. So hopefully see some of you guys there. See you at the Bushcraft show. If you see us, grab us. Have a chat with us.
Yeah, give us a tug on. It's just like, we're always wondering.
No, not a tug, Liam. We don't want a tug.
You could tug on my sleeve. I'm sorry, I forgot it wasn't you two.
Anyway, you can follow us at the Wodesman podcast on Instagram. You can catch us on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, all of the normal podcast streaming services. This has been an extra special episode, double the length of our normal episodes. And we do hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah. Again, thank you so much, Josh. And yeah, thank you to every single one of you listening. And until next time, we'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.